Hey AP Hug team, this is Sanchez with a brief review of the evolution of contemporary political pattern. Want to go ahead and remind you of a few key things we've already read about and discussed in class. I'm going to review a little bit about imperialism, colonialism, decolonization, and a little bit of review of our different political theories, the Heartland and Rimland theory. Now, reminder, when we're talking about political geography, all cultural hearts develop from some sort of political organization of space so they can control and rule their people and lands. The idea of modern political state developed in the early 18th century in Europe. German geographer Ratzel compared the political state to a living organism, that it had to expand and absorb nearby territories in order to survive. An organism that grows, that needs resources to sustain its population. Germany used this theory to justify the invasion of neighboring states during World War II. Again, we talked about in class Hitler's example of using Lebensraum, which means living space, to justify his claims of expanding the German Reich, as he called it. Now, going back a step and also into our reading, we've discussed what imperialism means. Imperialism is the use of military threat, cultural domination, and economic sanctions to gain control of a country and its resources. Now, colonialism imposed a set of formal controls by a mother country over its colonies or outside territories. Again, think back to our discussion of the Berlin Conference, where Europe basically gobbled up the African continent, trying to gain influence and also the natural resources. Today, many countries with multi-ethnic populations still suffer the conflict because of their superimposed boundaries placed by European colonial powers. Again, the Berlin Conference, a perfect example of those artificial fake boundaries. Again, one of the many boundaries we've talked about within the course of the class. Now, decolonization, on the other hand, is the process which former colonies gain their independence. Close to home example, the United States was a colony, and the United States gained independence in the late 18th century. Latin American colonies also gained their independence during the 19th, and most African colonies became independent during the 20th century. Now, when we talked about geopolitics, Mackinder, an English geographer, developed the Heartland-Rimland theory to justify the European colonization during the 19th century. What he claimed is the core, the main part of Eurasia was the heartland, kind of like the central home base, and the surrounding territories comprised the rimland. The heartland is well positioned to dominate the world because of the immense size of the landmass. Since Russia was a major part of the heartland, Mackinder influenced politicians of the day to limit Russia's expansion by colonizing the territories near Russia. The policy of containment was a direct offshoot of Mackinder's Heartland-Rimland theory after World War II. The United States joined several European countries in various regional alliances, such, for example, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, to prevent Soviet domination of Europe. In addition, with our discussion or your reading of the Cold War, something called the Domino Theory was a popular anti-communist theory between 1945 and 1990 that greatly influenced the foreign policy decisions of the United States during that time period. This theory stated that a country could become communist or could fall to communism if the neighboring countries around it were likely to become communist. This theory stated that once a country became communist, the neighboring countries around it were likely also to become communist, like a column of dominoes falling one by one. The Vietnam War was a direct result of this theory, and the United States tried to stop the spread of communism. During the Cold War era, between the end of World War II and the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, the balance of power between the world's two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, was also a struggle of the non-communist free world and the forces of communism.